Today I want to go over 10 possible cons for living and retiring in Thailand. Notice how I said possible cons, because really it will come down to 3 factors: your personal preferences, your attitude, and number 3 is your ability to adapt. With that in mind, friends, let's kick off the first topic, which is the intense heat. So if you haven't heard already, Thailand is very hot throughout the year. Now this may seem fine and dandy for a short-term travel or vacation, but if you decide to move there long-term, you'll need to accept that the tropical climate isn't just warm, it's hot, with temperatures averaging around 30 degrees Celsius, which is 86 degrees Fahrenheit, and the hottest months going up to 40 degrees Celsius, which is 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, it gets toasty, especially when you factor in the high humidity in the air combined with the high temperatures. And by the way, Thailand averages about 80% relative humidity throughout the year. This type of climate of being hot and wet is the perfect place for bugs and mosquitoes as well. Those with underlying health conditions or who cannot handle the heat may want to consider someplace else. As for myself, I don't love being in super hot temperatures, but I am able to adapt and look for the good. For example, in Bangkok, many of the malls and enclosed restaurants have AC, so you can cool off by going there. Also in places like Phuket, you can enjoy the beach life and easily cool off by jumping into the ocean. So yeah, I think beach life is probably the most appealing to me. What about you? Additionally, just think about it. You can stay outside all night in shorts and flip-flops without even getting cold year-round. That sounds pretty nice. Also, the northern parts of Thailand, such as the city Chiang Mai, tend to have a slightly more mild climate. Up next is the language barrier. So English is not as widely spoken in Thailand. Communication will be easier in bigger cities versus rural areas, and if you go super rural, there may not be any English spoken. But hopefully this doesn't come as a big surprise either, since the national language of Thailand is Thai, with over 90% of the population being of the Thai ethnicity. So you will need to accept that there will be some language barriers. Now some people may think that this will make daily life and relationships more difficult. That may be true for those with that type of attitude, but it may also be the exact opposite if you have the right way of going about it. I think it's important that we remember that we're all people with similar needs, to be loved, involved, respected, and so on. So you can work on that common ground when building relationships. I also found that the Thai people are very hospitable and kind-hearted, so talking to them always left a smile on my face and made me feel very comfortable. And language doesn't always come down to words alone, right? It's in your mannerisms, body language you could say, and the way you treat others. For these reasons, I still think it's easy to find and make meaningful relationships. Also, don't forget the power of technology. When I was at a laundromat, I was able to say something a little bit more complicated to a nice worker there by using Google Translate, where in real time we could communicate. Super cool. Additionally, it shows initiative and effort on your part if you try to learn some of the Thai language. One more thing about communication is that there are 50 JCI accredited hospitals in Thailand. So many of the medical professionals have been trained abroad and have learned some English. And yes, there are also great expat communities and Facebook groups that you can join to get acclimated to the new environment and culture. Okay, let's talk about cultural differences. So I personally have found the culture in Thailand to be very fascinating. As you probably know, culture is a set of customs or traditions that play a big role in the way people view the world. Food, buildings, and our environment also play a big role in our culture. Those who are not ready to learn or accept new ideas or viewpoints may want to reconsider before moving not just to Thailand, but any other country with different cultural ideas and traditions. The same is true for those who like to complain about little things, because complaining in front of others or about people in Thailand in a public setting could make them lose face, and that's not a good thing to do. During my stay in Thailand, I honestly couldn't get enough of the culture and seeing the gorgeous temples. Some things to keep in mind is that the Thai people highly value concepts such as respect and saving face. So being polite, apologizing, and helping others save face is a great place to start. There's also a high amount of dignity or respect for elderly and religious leaders too. Another interesting aspect is the hand gesture known as the wai, which can be used as a greeting, shows respect, and can be used to apologize or say goodbye as well. So when it comes to experiencing a new culture, it's really important to not be quick to judge, but instead put yourself in another person's situation. Be willing to learn and adapt. You'll be surprised how amazing other cultures really are. Remember that you've grown up with a certain set of beliefs or traditions, and others have too, so it's important to be respectful of different cultures. Okay, let's talk about a rough one. Taxes on foreign income in 2024. One unfortunate news is that as of 2024, foreigners will be taxed for overseas income, including pensions. This is as long as you stay in Thailand for over 180 days. This has been a big cause of frustration for those looking to retire or those already living or retired in Thailand. Maybe these policies will change at some point in the future, but it's just something to be aware of since it will affect how much money you need to have saved up before retiring. Next is the partying lifestyle and environment. So the atmosphere in Thailand is super upbeat and is known for its partying and nightlife. We can also see that tourism is not slowing down since in the year 2023 alone, there were about 28.15 million tourists that visited Thailand, which is a drastic increase from previous years. Some may find it more difficult to settle down when there are big crowds and lots of tourists. Unfortunately, along with this comes a lack of noise control, which makes getting quality sleep much more difficult. Again, it will depend on your location. Are you close to a big night market or outdoor pubs? Before making a final decision, I want to remind you that ultimately the pace and type of lifestyle comes down to you. Just be careful when choosing your living space, and instead of living in a crowded area, you could always choose a less touristy location such as the beloved Chiang Mai, located to the north, or Hua Hin, which is southwest of Bangkok. And yes, even in places such as Phuket or Koh Samui, you can stay at and visit less crowded beaches. If you'd like to see a video specifically going over the best places to retire in Thailand, please leave a comment letting me know. Let's talk about crime and safety rates. It's no surprise that the big cities in Thailand, such as Bangkok with a larger population, will have some degree of crime. Although violent crimes are not as common towards foreigners, there still is a higher chance for petty crimes such as theft, scams especially, and being overcharged for fees and services such as riding a tuk-tuk to get from place to place. So I mean, this is even more reason to brush up on the culture, language, and make loyal friends during your stay. Also, you'll just want to be more careful during peak tourist seasons and in those more crowded areas. Next is visa rules and changes. I've seen a lot of complaints about tourist visas and different visa types, but for this video, I want to focus on retirement visas. Essentially, there are two main options: the non-immigrant OA visa or the long-term residence LTR visa, which came out in 2022. For both visa types, you must be aged 50 years or older. The financial requirements are much better for the non-immigrant O-A visa. The deposit amount is 800,000 Thai baht. With the current exchange rate, that's about 22,000 US dollars. The monthly income requirement is 65,000 Thai baht, which is about $1,800 per month. With this visa, you are required to report your stay every 90 days. So some people may think that is a bit tedious. The other LTR visa has many categories, but the one for retirees is called Wealthy Pensioner. So yeah, you probably can see where this is headed. You must have an annual income of at least 80,000 US dollars. Yes, that is in USD. Or there is one other option. If your annual income is between $80,000 and $40,000, you can apply, but need to have a $250,000 investment in Thai government bonds, Thai property, or foreign direct investment. The nice thing about this type of visa is that you may be allowed to report every year instead of every 90 days. So although the frequent reporting of stay can get annoying, it comes down to your attitude and just getting used to it. Also, the financial requirements for the long-term resident visa may be too high for some people. It's important to note here that visa rules can change suddenly as time goes on, so make sure to do your research before making a final decision. On to the next topic. Foreigners cannot own land. As a foreigner living in Thailand, generally you are not allowed to purchase land or have it in your name. There are other options, however, such as investing in properties, but remember that condominiums must be 51% Thai owned. Let's say that you want a single family home with a pool and a great view. Well, although you can't purchase it in your name, you could possibly enter into a lease agreement with the homeowner, but it cannot last longer than 30 years. And if your spouse happens to be Thai and you want to purchase a place, just be mindful that your spouse has the right to sell, mortgage, transfer, or exchange the property without your consent. I'm not saying something bad will happen, and I truly hope that it doesn't. It's just important to put everything into consideration. Now let's discuss the next reason to not retire in Thailand: if you have serious road rage. Okay, so driving in Thailand isn't for the faint of heart. If you personally have a hard time being patient on the road and experience road rage easily, then you may have a very hard time adapting to the streets in Thailand, where it's common for basic traffic rules to be disobeyed or completely ignored. As a retiree in Thailand, you'll need to be patient and exercise caution. These driving conditions are not unique to Thailand, but are present in other countries as well. When crossing the street, you'll want to go at a steady pace, not running, and not making any swift movements. Rush hour is another thing where it can get very busy, especially in the congested downtown areas and where there is construction going on. So yeah, this is just something to keep in mind. I say this in most of my videos, but you'll never really know if it's a good place or fit unless you visit there yourself firsthand. You may not find the driving conditions to be bothersome at all. Okay, a common misconception about living in Thailand is that many people think it's super cheap all the time. This is why I want to talk to you about the topic, not everything will be cheaper. So in previous videos on this channel, I've talked about cost of living, and generally speaking, Thailand is much more affordable than the USA. Many are able to get by even in a big city like Bangkok for under $2,000 a month, but it requires living within your means and sticking to a budget. If you are expecting to live the exact same lifestyle, meaning eating at high-end restaurants or only eating Western food or using imported goods, then there's a good chance you'll find yourself in a pickle and spending too much money. Imported goods can be expensive due to high import tariffs. Your living space will also be a huge factor. Choosing to live in a resort-like area or a penthouse will make your expenses go up like crazy. But I've got to say that if you are able to adapt to the food and eat street food more often, you'll save so much money. And fortunately for me, that wasn't a problem because I found the street food and Thai food in general to be super fresh, flavorful, and of course delicious. So when it comes to planning your finances for living in Thailand, you must factor in emergency situations, such as needing to see a specialist or get some sort of surgery done. In addition to having a healthy, steady income, please make sure to prepare an emergency fund or savings that you can dip into if there's an unexpected expense. My wife and I keep our emergency fund out of the stock market, but instead keep it in a high-yield savings account. A good rule of thumb here, friends, is to have 2 years of living expenses saved up in an emergency fund before retiring. Another amazing reason to have this emergency savings is because when there's an economic downturn, you can choose to use your savings instead of taking withdrawals from your retirement accounts. One more important financial tip is to have multiple streams of income before retiring. For example, you could have some rental income, a 401k, social security benefits, and an emergency fund. This will help you have more financial peace during retirement and be ready for the unexpected. So you probably noticed that I've tried to include the positives or have a good outlook when talking about each of the cons today. I've found that if you keep an open mind, look for common ground with the locals, and in general, just look for the good, then you'll have an amazing stay in Thailand and love it for too many reasons to count. Your adaptability will also be a huge factor. To adapt instead of trying to have Thailand change for your preferences. Just take it one step at a time and make sure to visit the country you're thinking about beforehand. That way you can get a feel for yourself for scenery, food, daily life, climate, and so on. Thank you so much for sticking around. I'd appreciate it if you would drop a comment below with your thoughts and subscribe for more financial freedom and retire abroad tips. Peace out.